Good morning, good afternoon, or good evening. Wherever you're listening in from, we're glad you're here. I'm Paige McGarry, Associate HEOR, RWE, and Market Access Category Manager at Scientist.com. This is Insights and Outcomes, a HealthEconomics.com podcast. Today we're exploring the evolving landscape of research outsourcing and collaboration, particularly in the HEOR, RWE, and market access space. As researchers face new challenges in accessing external vendors, platforms like Scientist.com are playing a key role in connecting researchers with suppliers. We'll dive into how these challenges are shaping the industry, how suppliers can address these challenges, and why long-term planning is becoming more critical than ever. Today I'm joined by Matt McLoughlin. Matt is a Senior Vice President for Compliance and Categories at Scientist.com. He has been in the pharmaceutical industry for over 25 years. Starting as a geneticist for AstraZeneca, he then moved into R&D procurement before joining to Scientist.com in 2016. He now supports major pharmaceutical companies and biotechs outsource their regulated and higher risk services to drive quality and speed within their pipeline and bringing efficiency to the industry. Matt, it's great to have you on the podcast today. It's not every day you get to interview your boss.
Hello, Paige.
Okay, and as always, we're going to start out with our fun little game of ins and outs. Ready?
Yeah, go on.
Okay. Wearing headphones with no music just so people won't talk to you.
100% in.
I'm always listening to music, but more or less, yeah, I'll have headphones on all the time. Okay. Doing laundry and then living out of the clean clothes basket for a week? Yeah. I can never fold laundry right after.
I'm a clean freak. That's out for me. It stresses me out when there's stuff all over the place. So, let's just say out on that one.
Okay. Bringing your own bag to the store but forgetting them in the car? Yeah, I do this all the time.
Yes, although it does increase my step counts because I then have to go back to the car and get them.
You get them? I just take...
I go back and get them. I'm too cheap to pay for the plastic bags, basically.
Yeah, I'll take the 10 cents hit.
Yeah.
Being terrified of parallel parking and avoiding it at all costs?
Absolutely out. As a Brit and having driven all over Europe, there is no option but to learn to parallel park. I do find my current funnest, I don't think that's a word, but regardless, is watching...
people parallel park?
Americans trying to parallel park.
Okay. Well,
if I'm going to be specific, but no, yeah.
I would say I'm out on this one as well. I used to be terrified of it, but then living in a city, I had to learn under fire, and then it became pretty comfortable.
I think my dream is when I can get both the rear and the front parking sensors going off continuously, then you know you've done a good job.
Yeah, my car has no sensors and no backup camera, so it's always chaos. Having 87 tabs open because I'll get to them later, yeah. I have so many tabs and windows, and then I'll even exit out of Chrome tabs to have separate windows open to then go back to at a later time. Yeah.
Yeah.
Okay, that's it. Short and painless.
Cool.
Okay, so to kick things off, for those of who might not be familiar with it, can you give a quick background on Scientist.com and its role in the R&D space?
Yeah, not a problem. So Scientist.com was formed in about 2007 by our founders, Kevin Lustig, Chris Peterson, and Andy Martin. Kevin and Chris are still in the company as CEO and CTO. Basically, the challenge they had was to tackle the inefficiencies that come with pharmaceutical research. We went through a different few business models in the early days. We really settled on the secret formula in probably 2013. And from there, we started out as a scientific marketplace in 2014. We've certainly moved now into more of the procurement orchestration platform. And we've been phenomenally successful. We're by far the largest solution provider in the space. We have something like 6,000 suppliers, over 140 clients, including majority of the top 30 biopharma. And we support thousands upon thousands of requests every week to drive R&D pipelines forward. From a history perspective, like you mentioned, we really started out in the preclinical space. We moved first into the commercial space of the RWE HEOR market access back in 2017. And now we've seen with the success that we've had in those spaces, a push from our clients to actually support more in the clinical area now as well. So, we've recently announced the launch of our Clinical Lab Navigator. We've announced our clinical trial monitoring tool, Trial Insights. And fundamentally, our goal is to speed up research in a compliant manner. So if we can remove those delays that researchers face on a daily basis when outsourcing, then that's our goal. So at the moment, I think the average time it takes on the platform to place your request to get a quote that you can proceed with is 2 days. So it's certainly saving significant time for researchers and for suppliers as well.
Perfect. Well said. And now, Scientist.com has been making waves in the healthcare space for a while now, but its reach extends far beyond just connecting researchers to suppliers. Yeah. How did the platform initially get involved in the HEOR, RWE, and market access space, and was there a business case behind that move?
Yeah, so again, one of the things that we like to do is really sort of tackle spaces when there is a demand. So back in 2017, we had one of our major clients come to us, and they'd seen what we'd done in the preclinical space around sort of speeding things up, and they wanted to bring it to their research as well. So really the driving forces behind the business case was the concept of access. So they wanted to enable researchers and their stakeholders to have a greater view of all of the different types of suppliers out there globally. So they could be suppliers that offer, that are expertise in a particular service area. It could be that they have a particular data set that they needed to access. So that was the first thing. If we can increase visibility and we can increase access, then it gives the researchers significant benefits with regards to their pipelines. The second thing was they wanted to identify quality. So really, it was what we did to support that was we worked with them to create questionnaires that suppliers can complete and proactively share information. We enabled their researchers, their stakeholders, to share information internally. They could see the metrics that were involved with a particular supplier, how fast that they were responding, the types of projects that they were supporting for their peers and their colleagues, really driving that identification piece. But fundamentally, all of that's underpinned by reducing the indirect cost, should I say. So the fact that the system enables them to instantly access all suppliers on the marketplace means it removed the need for them to put CDAs in place. It removed the need for them to put MSAs in place. It removes the need for suppliers to complete due diligence independently for every client and then set them up on the finance systems. So it really brought an innovative approach to the client, but also to the suppliers in this area particularly. And from there, we've continued to grow. We've seen the number of suppliers available on the marketplace increase. We've seen the number of clients using us in this space increase, and we've seen the number of requests increase. So I truly believe that this approach is transformative and will be the future of how more and more organizations are looking to engage with third parties.
Well, I couldn't agree more. And just focusing a bit more on the researchers that you're mentioning, researchers today are really facing significant challenges when it comes to accessing and outsourcing with external vendors. What are some of the common obstacles you hear when speaking with pharmaceutical clients?
We touched on a lot of them in that prior answer, but I think it's worth reiterating. It's the fundamental is it's the delay of access. So what that means is that they tend to go back to the same suppliers each and every time. Those suppliers can deliver a great service. That there's no question there, but it may result in a delay. It may result in an increased cost. It may result in not getting exactly the data that you want. Also, that can be prohibitive to innovation. So it can prevent researchers from accessing a new organisation that's been formed with expertise. So really, when we think about the challenges that researchers face, it breaks down into 4 areas, I would say. First is the contract. Setting up a contract with a pharmaceutical with a pharmaceutical client can take months, and genuinely months. That's really prohibitive if you want to run a pilot. There's the due diligence barriers that pharmaceutical companies have. We face them by working with them and understand. So we've developed a system where a supplier can complete it once proactively. Again, it means that they're able to be accessed quicker. There's the visibility piece. There are hundreds of suppliers out there with hundreds of data sets, and it's really difficult for a researcher or a health economist to understand who has what where. So by taking them, in effect, out of Google into a platform where they can really interrogate that quickly and efficiently is going to be a significant benefit for them and a challenge that they face. And then lastly, I sort of touched on it, is at the moment, a researcher on a site in the US doesn't necessarily know what a researcher on a site in Sweden is doing. They don't know the different, who the oncology department or therapeutic area are using versus the cardiovascular, etc. So having a platform that enables them to share that internal knowledge as well can be really transformative with regards to the studies that they design, the questions that they're asking, the lessons that they learn. Ultimately, everything's about speed. It's not necessarily about getting things the cheapest, but it's getting things as fast as possible to the absolute required quality.
And I guess now looking at this from more of a supplier perspective, what opportunities exist within Scientist.com to address these challenges and better support researchers in their work?
I think that from a supplier's perspective, there's been a bit of a fundamental change. I suspect, if somebody's listening to this and's never heard of the organisation, they could see it as a threat. It's going to compromise my existing relationships. Whereas actually we found that we're seeing suppliers more and more understand that this is a new way of working. It's a new BD channel. It's not a replacement for what they do, and it's not to replace their existing relationships. What the platform can enable them to do is develop new relationships. So really look at clients that they might not have been able to work with before because of those barriers that we were discussing earlier. And yeah, exactly. So then trying to turn that into a way of saying, actually, now we can work with you. So one of my favourite stories was a supplier a couple of years ago at ISPOR that were on the platform, promoted that they were on the platform, and then they could instantly say, a researcher from company X, so maybe a BI or Sanofi or AZ, etc., because we had the relationship set up, they could actually engage with them straight away. The researcher could send a request. That forms a CDA. They could sit down at the conference and have a discussion with a client they've never worked with before. I don't know of any other way that they could do that, certainly with confidentiality protections established. So it really is a different way of working, and trying to remove those barriers is absolutely critical. We see ourselves as a facilitator of relationships. They still form a direct contractual relationship. We're not subcontracting. We're not distributing their services. Really, it's just a different way of engagement. And for us, again, it comes back to helping those pipelines progress.
I love that ISPOR story. It's crazy to think that they had never spoken before, and they were able to talk about a project right then and there.
Yeah.
And now shifting gears a bit again, we're seeing a significant change in client needs. And how do you see this shift in the industry impacting research and collaboration moving forward?
Yeah, I think the biggest shift we've seen is challenge to budgets. Mm-hmm. So, it's well documented externally in the press. There's been a lot of challenges certainly to major pharmaceutical companies. We've seen in our clients entire sites being shut down. It's not uncommon to see projects and parts of the pipeline shut down, including entire therapy areas. So I think that's one of the fundamental needs and sort of shifts that we've seen over recent years. And with that budget sort of pressure comes the need to make budgets do more with less. So finding ways to save money, finding ways to become more efficient is absolutely critical. And that's generic. That's across the entire industry. I think from within the real world evidence, health economic market access space, you are starting to see an increased requirement for more data. And that data needs to be developed a lot earlier in the pipeline to support decisions. Mm-hmm. So those decisions could be deciding whether a project moves forward in the pipeline because you have potential market access studies at that earlier key stage to determine, do I take candidate A or candidate B forward? We're also seeing requirements within investment decisions. So when biotechs have a pipeline, when they have a potential candidate drug, etc., then we're seeing a demand that really around the market access strategy before they're going to go to investment. I think that's a fundamental shift. Mm-hmm. And I know Kath Bacon did one of these podcasts from Fingerpost Consulting. She's done. I've worked with her on a webinar before. She's got some fantastic insights into this area and how market access can really transform an organisation, whether it's a big pharmaceutical industry client. I keep calling them industries, but a big pharmaceutical client. Well, yeah, bringing market access earlier. Or it could be as a biotech that historically has never thought market access is relevant to them. They're too early on. Actually, bringing that in early can be more cost efficient and can have real benefits to them later on.
Yeah, perfect. And changing gears yet again, it might seem like a really distant goal, planning for 2026, but it can really bring major benefits in terms of strategic alignment and cost effectiveness. So looking to the future, how can clients use Scientist.com to plan their book of work for 2026? And what are the advantages of planning ahead, in particular when it comes to that price difference or long-term strategy?
Yeah, we've touched on a few points. Like I think that last question talked around, that shift around budgets and being proactive. I know that yourself and a couple of colleagues went to ISPOR, and I remember having those discussions with you where there was a clear call to action to really build fully integrated cross-functional evidence plans, and to do that you need to start with the end in mind. So really it's thinking early on, as early as possible, what are the key decisions and when are they being made? So looking at it from, are you engaging with sort of like a HTA submission? Are you looking at a payer review? What are their timelines and evidence requiring? And how are you, with that evidence, how are you integrating real world evidence, real world data, health economics, market access to really create a fully integrated plan? And I think real world data has been a particularly interesting topic over the past 6 or 7 months when we've been discussing with clients. They're really wanting early access to that and proactive access. So being able to validate data before fully bringing it in-house. As part of that, they really need to think how they're going to leverage that data to then later generate real world evidence. Because that's a critical piece that needs to be brought in early. If changing tact completely now, thinking around how do you take the local requirements in. So again, having your plan from a corporate or central perspective, but then factoring in local. Basically, all of that can be summed up in that it's really complex. Mm-hmm. Like having one supplier to be able to deliver all of that is gonna be difficult. They are out there, don't get me wrong, but they may not deliver the quality that you require in every area. They may not be able to deliver the timelines or at the budget. So really, I think from a Scientist.com perspective, the thing that we're starting to support the researchers with is that planning or book of work. So through the platform, they get access to, I think it's over 500, nearly 600 suppliers of RWE HEOR market access services. So we support them in running RFIs to confirm supplier capabilities proactively. It's because they can use the legal model to communicate with new suppliers. They can send out full specifications if they have them straight away so that they can get better proposals back. That's really linked to that budget constraints piece that I was talking about. so that if we can enable them to plan their budgets better, they can do more research, they can plan more work, they can align resources correctly. And by doing that, we can set them up for success. So really what we're trying to do is put the tools in the hand of the researchers to be able to understand what they can do with their budgets, take those books of works as far as possible, and then equally on the supplier side, give them the ability to support those researchers, give them access, give them visibility. That's what's going to change the game, and certainly is going to help with that longer term strategy.
Perfect. Well, thank you so much for your time today, Matt. Your insights have been invaluable. It's really clear that as the research landscape continues to evolve, staying ahead of these challenges and really seizing the new opportunities will be the key to driving progress.
Brilliant. Well, thank you, Paige. It's been a pleasure.
Of course. If you enjoyed this conversation, don't forget to subscribe and leave us a review. It helps more listeners like you find the show. Want more HEOR, RWE, and market access insights? Stay connected with Theoretically Speaking and HealthEconomics.Com for the latest trends shaping healthcare decision-making. Until then, keep asking the big questions, challenging assumptions, and driving smarter healthcare decisions. Thanks for listening. I'm your host, Paige McGarry, and we'll see you next time.